Hollywood, 1958. The set of Some Came Running was chaos. Cameras everywhere, lights blazing, crew members rushing back and forth. Frank Sinatra was in his trailer, probably on the phone with someone important. Dean Martin was supposed to be rehearsing his lines, but instead he was watching her. Shirley MacLaine was 24 years old. She was new to Hollywood, relatively speaking. A dancer from Virginia who had gotten her big break when she'd stepped in for an injured Carol Haney in The Pajama Game on Broadway. Now she was here, on a major film set, working alongside the two biggest stars in the world, and she was completely falling apart. Dean could see it. The way her hands trembled slightly when she thought no one was looking. The way she over-rehearsed every scene, terrified of making a mistake. The way she laughed too loud at jokes that weren't funny, desperate to fit in, desperate to be accepted. He recognized it because he had been there. 20 years ago, he had been the kid from Steubenville who didn't belong. The Italian crooner trying to make it in a world that looked down on people like him. He knew what it felt like to be surrounded by people and completely alone. But Dean Martin didn't say anything. That wasn't his style. He watched. He waited. He kept his observations to himself, until the day Shirley MacLaine pushed herself too far. It was the third week of shooting. The scene was emotionally demanding. Shirley's character was supposed to break down, to show vulnerability, to let the audience see her pain. The director, Vincente Minnelli, wanted authenticity. He wanted real emotion. Shirley gave it to him. Take after take after take. By the seventh take, she wasn't acting anymore. The tears were real. The pain was real. Something had cracked open inside her, and she couldn't close it back up. Minnelli called cut. He was satisfied. He had what he needed. The crew began resetting for the next scene. But Shirley couldn't stop crying. She stood there in the middle of the set, tears streaming down her face, unable to compose herself. Crew members looked away, embarrassed. Nobody knew what to do. In 1958 Hollywood, you didn't acknowledge weakness. You certainly didn't comfort it. Frank Sinatra glanced over, then went back to his conversation with a producer. He had things to do. People to see. Frank didn't have time for emotional breakdowns. But Dean Martin stopped. He had been walking toward his trailer, ready for a break, ready for a drink that was actually apple juice. But something made him turn around. Something made him look at this young woman standing alone in a crowd of people, completely exposed. Dean walked over to Shirley. Not fast, not slow. Just walking, like he had nowhere else to be. "Hey, kid," he said softly. "Come with me." Shirley looked up at him through her tears. Dean Martin, the coolest man in Hollywood. Why was he talking to her? Why was he even noticing her? Dean didn't wait for a response. He gently took her elbow and guided her away from the set, away from the staring eyes, away from the whispered judgments. He walked her to a quiet corner behind a row of trailers where nobody could see them. And then he did something nobody expected from Dean Martin. He waited. He didn't tell her to stop crying. He didn't offer empty platitudes. He didn't try to fix anything. He just stood there, leaning against the trailer, lighting a cigarette, giving her space to fall apart. 5 minutes passed. Maybe 10. Shirley's sobs gradually subsided. Her breathing slowed. The storm inside her began to calm. Finally, she looked at Dean. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't know what happened. Don't apologize," Dean said. His voice was gentle but firm. "You don't ever have to apologize for feeling things." Shirley wiped her eyes. "Everyone must think I'm so unprofessional. So weak." Dean took a drag from his cigarette. "You know what I think?" She shook her head. "I think you're the only honest person on this entire set." Shirley stared at him. Dean continued, his voice low, meant only for her. "Everyone else here is pretending. Pretending they're confident. Pretending they know what they're doing. Pretending they're not scared. But you You just showed more courage in the last 10 minutes than most of these people have shown in their entire careers. Courage? Shirley almost laughed. I just had a breakdown in front of 50 people. Yeah, and that takes guts. Dean's eyes met hers. You want to know a secret, kid? The people who feel things the deepest are the ones who make the best artists. The ones who can access that pain, that vulnerability, that raw human emotion. That's not weakness. That's your superpower. Shirley was quiet for a moment. Nobody had ever talked to her like this. Not her parents, not her teachers, not the directors who gave her notes or the producers who signed her checks. But it hurts, she finally said. Feeling everything so much. It hurts. Dean nodded slowly. Yeah, it does. And it never stops hurting. That's the price of admission. How do you handle it? You always seem so calm, so unbothered. Dean smiled, but it was a sad smile, a tired smile, the smile of a man who had spent years building walls around himself. I hide, he said simply. I put on a mask. I pretend I don't care about anything. I make jokes. I act like everything's easy. He paused. And it works. It protects me. But it costs something. You hide long enough, you start to forget who you are underneath. He looked at Shirley with an intensity that surprised her. Don't do what I did, kid. Don't build walls, don't hide. You've got something special. Something real. The moment you start pretending, the moment you put on a mask, you lose it. And once it's gone, it's almost impossible to get back. Shirley didn't know what to say. She was looking at Dean Martin, the king of cool, the man who seemed to have everything figured out. And he was telling her that his entire persona was a defense mechanism. That underneath the charm and the jokes and the effortless cool was a man who had sacrificed something essential to survive. Can I tell you something? Dean said. Something I've never told anyone? Shirley nodded. I'm lonely. Dean's voice was barely above a whisper. I'm surrounded by people every day, thousands of fans, hundreds of friends. But I'm lonely all the time, because nobody knows me. Not really. I won't let them. And that's my fault. That's the choice I made. He took a final drag from his cigarette and dropped it, crushing it under his shoe. You're at a crossroads right now, kid. You can go my way. Build the walls. Put on the mask. Protect yourself. And you'll survive. You'll have a career. You'll be successful. But you'll lose something. He paused. Or you can go your way. Keep feeling everything. Keep being vulnerable. Keep letting people see the real you. It's harder. It's more painful. But at the end of the day, you'll still know who you are. You'll still be whole. Shirley's eyes were filling with tears again. But these were different tears. Tears of gratitude. Tears of recognition. Tears of finally being seen. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Dean was quiet for a long moment. Because I wish someone had told me. When I was your age. When I was standing where you're standing. I wish some old bastard had pulled me aside and said, hey kid, there's another way. Maybe I would have listened. Probably not. But maybe. He reached out and gently touched her shoulder. You're going to be something special, Shirley, I can see it. You've got talent, but more than that, you've got heart. Don't let this town take it from you. Don't let them turn you into another phony. Stay real. Stay you. Shirley couldn't help it. She started crying again. But this time, Dean didn't just stand there. He pulled her into a hug. A real hug. The kind of hug you give someone who needs to know they're not alone. For a moment, Dean Martin wasn't the king of cool. He was just a man who saw someone struggling and decided to help. When they pulled apart, Dean's demeanor shifted back. The mask slid into place. The lazy smile returned. Now, he said, his voice light again, let's go get you cleaned up before Manelli has a heart attack. I think there's still some scenes to shoot, and I'd rather not have Frank complaining about overtime. Shirley laughed. A real laugh. The first real laugh she'd had in weeks. They walked back toward the set together. Just before they reached the lights and the cameras and the watching eyes, Dean stopped. "One more thing, kid." Shirley turned. "When's your birthday?" The question caught her off guard. "April 24th. Why?" Dean smiled. "No reason, just curious." He walked back onto the set, and the mask was fully in place again. Dean Martin, the charming drunk, the effortless entertainer, the man who never took anything seriously. But Shirley MacLaine had seen behind the curtain. She had seen the real Dean Martin, and she would never forget it. 7 months later, on April 24th, 1959, Shirley MacLaine was at home in Los Angeles. She had just finished another film. Her career was taking off. The breakdown on the set of Some Came Running felt like a distant memory. Her phone rang at exactly 9 in the morning. "Hello? Hey, kid. Happy birthday." Shirley's heart stopped. It was Dean Martin. "Dean, how did you—" "I told you I was curious about your birthday. Wasn't lying." She could hear the smile in his voice. "So what are you doing? Having a party? Surrounded by adoring fans?" Shirley laughed. "Actually, I'm alone. Reading scripts. Very glamorous." "Well, stop reading scripts. It's your birthday. Go do something fun." "Like what?" "I don't know. Whatever makes you happy. Eat cake, watch a sunset, call someone you love." He paused. "And remember what I told you. Stay real. Stay you." Shirley felt tears prick her eyes. "Dean, thank you. For calling. For remembering." "Don't mention it, kid. I mean that literally. Don't mention it. I've got a reputation to protect." She laughed again. "Talk to you next year, Shirley." "Next year?" But Dean had already hung up. Shirley stood there holding the phone, trying to process what had just happened. Dean Martin had called her on her birthday. Out of nowhere. Just to say happy birthday and to remind her to stay true to herself. She assumed it was a one-time thing. A nice gesture from a kind man. Something she would remember fondly. She was wrong. The next year, on April 24th, 1960, the phone rang at 9 a.m. "Hey, kid, happy birthday." The year after that. And the year after that. And the year after that. For 20 years, without fail, Dean Martin called Shirley MacLaine on her birthday. It didn't matter where she was. It didn't matter where he was. It didn't matter what was happening in their lives, their careers, their relationships. Every April 24th, the phone would ring, and Dean's voice would be on the other end. "Hey, kid, happy birthday." The calls were never long. 5 minutes, maybe 10. Dean would ask how she was doing. She would tell him about her latest project. He would make a joke. She would laugh. And then, just before hanging up, he would always say the same thing. "Stay real. Stay you." Sometimes the calls came when Shirley was on top of the world, when she'd just won an award or finished a film she was proud of. Dean would congratulate her, then remind her not to let success change her. Sometimes the calls came when she was struggling, when a relationship had ended or a project had failed. Dean never acknowledged the bad times directly. He would just talk, his voice calm and steady, a reminder that she wasn't alone. The years passed. The world changed. Hollywood changed. But those birthday calls remained constant. Every year, without fail. Shirley never told anyone about the calls. It felt too private, too sacred. This was something between her and Dean, something that existed outside of Hollywood and fame and all the noise. She asked him once in the early 1970s why he kept calling, why he remembered, why he bothered. Dean was quiet for a moment. "You remember that day on the set of Some Came Running? When you had your breakdown?" "Of course. I saw myself in you that day. The scared kid trying to make it. The person who felt everything too much. I saw what I used to be before I put up all the walls." He paused. "Every year, when I call you, I'm not just checking on you. I'm checking on that kid. The one I used to be. The one I gave up. When I hear your voice, when I hear that you're still real, still honest, still feeling things, it gives me hope. It reminds me that there's another way to survive this business. A better way. Shirley didn't know what to say. So don't thank me for calling, Dean continued. You're doing me the favor. You're proof that I was right, that you don't have to lose yourself, that the walls aren't the only answer. After that conversation, Shirley understood. The birthday calls weren't just about her. They were about Dean, too. They were his way of staying connected to something he'd lost. His way of touching the authentic, vulnerable person he used to be before Hollywood taught him to hide. In 1987, the phone call was different. Dean's voice was hollow, empty. The usual warmth was gone. Hey, kid, happy birthday. Shirley knew immediately that something was wrong. Dean, what happened? Silence on the line. Dean, talk to me. Dino's gone. Shirley's blood went cold. Dino, Dean Paul Martin, Dean's son, the pilot. Oh, Dean. Oh, God. When? Last month. Plane crash. Dean's voice cracked. They found him on the mountain, what was left of him. Shirley couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down her face. Dean, I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. I know, kid. I know. They sat in silence for a long moment. Shirley wanted to fly to Los Angeles immediately. She wanted to hold him. She wanted to do something. Anything. Dean, let me come see you, please. No. His voice was firm. I don't want visitors. I don't want people. I wanted to call you. I wanted to hear your voice. I wanted to remember. He trailed off. Remember what? Shirley asked softly. That day on the set, when I told you about the walls, about hiding, about losing yourself. Dean's voice was barely a whisper. I thought the walls protected me. I thought they kept me safe. But they didn't protect me from this. Nothing could protect me from this. Shirley wept silently on the other end of the line. And now I'm sitting here, in this big empty house, and I realize, all those years of hiding, all those walls I built, they didn't keep the pain out. They just kept everyone else out. And now that I need someone, I don't know how to let them in. Dean, you let me in. Right now, you're letting me in. Dean was quiet. Maybe, he finally said. Maybe you're the only one. That phone call lasted over an hour. It was the longest they had ever talked. Dean shared things he had never shared with anyone. About Dino, about his childhood, about the man he wished he had become. And Shirley listened. She didn't try to fix anything. She didn't offer platitudes. She just listened. Because that's what Dean had done for her all those years ago, behind the trailers on the set of Some Came Running. After 1987, the birthday calls continued, but they were different, sadder. Dean's voice was tired. The spark that had always been there, even behind the cool facade, was dimming. Sammy Davis Jr. died. Another blow, another loss. Each year, Dean's voice grew weaker, but he still called. Every April 24th, without fail. In 1995, the call came earlier than usual. It was April 24th, but it was 6 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. Shirley was barely awake when she answered. Hello? Hey, kid. Dean's voice was so faint she could barely hear him. Happy birthday. Dean, it's early. Are you okay? Couldn't sleep. Haven't slept right in years. He coughed. I wanted to make sure I called. Wanted to make sure I didn't miss it. Something in his voice frightened her. Dean, you sound tired. Really tired. I am tired, kid. More tired than I've ever been. He paused. But I had to call. I had to hear your voice. One more time. Shirley felt a chill run through her. Dean, don't talk like that. You're going to be fine. We're going to talk next year and the year after that. Shirley. His voice was soft but firm. I need to tell you something. She stopped talking. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I've hurt people. I've hidden from people. I've wasted years behind those walls I built. He took a shaky breath. But calling you every year, checking on you, making sure you stayed real, that wasn't a mistake. That was one of the best things I ever did. Shirley was crying now. You gave me hope, kid. Every year for 20 years. You showed me that it was possible to survive this business without losing your soul. And even though I couldn't do it myself, I got to watch you do it. And that meant something. That meant everything. Dean, I'm proud of you, Shirley. I don't say that to many people. I don't say that to anyone, really. But I'm proud of the woman you became. I'm proud that you never built the walls. I'm proud that you stayed real. He coughed again, a deep, rattling cough. Stay you, kid. Promise me. I promise, Shirley whispered. Good. That's good. She could hear the smile in his voice. Happy birthday, Shirley. Talk to you next year. He hung up. 8 months later, on Christmas Day 1995, Dean Martin died. Shirley MacLaine was at home when she got the news. She sat down heavily in a chair and wept. Not just for Dean, but for the man behind the mask. The lonely man who had spent his life hiding. The kind man who had called her every birthday for 20 years. The wise man who had told her the truth when no one else would. She remembered his last words to her. Stay you, kid. At Dean's funeral, Shirley saw the faces of Hollywood. The actors, the singers, the producers, the directors, all the people who had known Dean Martin the star. But she wondered how many of them had known Dean Martin the man. She wondered how many of them had seen behind the mask. Years later, in an interview, Shirley MacLaine was asked about her friendship with Dean Martin. She smiled. Dean Martin saved my life, she said. Not literally, but in every way that matters. When I was young and scared and falling apart, he was the only person who told me the truth. He told me not to hide, not to build walls, not to lose myself. And then, for 20 years, he called me on my birthday to make sure I hadn't forgotten. The interviewer asked why Dean had done that. Shirley's eyes glistened. Because Dean lost himself. He built the walls. He put on the mask. And he knew what it cost him. He didn't want me to make the same mistake. So he kept calling, kept checking, kept reminding me. She paused. But here's the thing the world never understood about Dean Martin. Behind all the cool, behind the jokes, behind the lazy charm, he was the most caring person I ever knew. He just didn't know how to show it. He didn't know how to let people in. Except with me. For some reason, he let me in. And I will be grateful for that. Until the day I die. The interviewer asked one final question. What do you think Dean would want people to remember about him? Shirley thought for a long moment. Not the songs, not the movies, not the Rat Pack. She smiled through her tears. He would want people to remember that it's okay to feel things. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be real. That's what he told me all those years ago, and that's what he kept telling me every birthday for 20 years. She looked directly at the camera. Stay real. Stay you. That's Dean Martin's legacy. Not the cool. The heart underneath. Shirley MacLaine is still alive today. She's in her 90s now. A legend in her own right. An Oscar winner. A trailblazer. And every April 24th, she thinks about Dean Martin. She doesn't wait for the phone to ring anymore. It stopped ringing on Christmas Day, 1995. But she still hears his voice. Hey, kid. Happy birthday. And she still follows his advice. Stay real. Stay you. That's the Dean Martin story nobody tells. Not the crooner. Not the movie star. Not the king of cool. The man who saw a scared young woman falling apart and decided to help. The man who called her every birthday for 20 years. The man who couldn't save himself but spent his life trying to save someone else. That's the real Dean Martin. And Shirley MacLaine never forgot.